The Principal and the Pauper is the second episode of the 9th season of The Simpsons. It first aired in September 1997, and it immediately sparked controversy among hardcore fans of the series. Many pinpoint the episode as the moment that marked the end of The Simpsons' golden era, which many feel began in Season 3. In the episode, secondary character Seymour Skinner is celebrating his 20th anniversary as the principal of the Springfield Elementary School when a stranger interrupts, accusing Skinner of being an imposter, specifically that he had stolen the stranger's identity. Skinner admits that his real name is Armand Tamzarian, and that he had thought that the real Seymour Skinner, who was a friend from the army, had died in the Vietnam War. After the revelation, Tamzarian leaves Springfield, but is later persuaded to return as principal. Since first airing and the subsequent backlash, the episode, which was always intended to be canon, has now been designated as non-canon.
A wizard did it.
Even people associated with The Simpsons have publicly criticized the episode, including the series creator Matt Groening, who has stated that the episode is one of his least favorite of the series, and that altering Skinner's backstory was a mistake. Additionally, the voice actor behind Skinner, Harry Shearer, was arguably the most vocal about the episode. In April 2001, Shearer recalled confronting the writing staff after reading the script, accusing them of betraying the fans. Even later episodes of The Simpsons mocked the story and its infamous reputation.
With the family in disarray, episodes increasingly resorted to gimmicky premises and nonsensical plots.
I'm an imposter.
To save money on a new dish, we'll just call you Snowball 2 and pretend this whole thing never happened.
That's really a cheat, isn't it?
I guess you're right, Principal Tamzarian.
Many fans feel that it was the moment that The Simpsons jumped the shark. Some even argue that the episode serves as an example as to why the series should have ended around season 10, because it ostensibly indicated that they were out of new ideas. Still, despite the backlash to the episode, and the impact that the story had on the history of the series, the episode has numerous redeeming factors that perhaps illustrate that the episode is far from deserving of all the hate it's received over the years.
Am I so out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong.
The concept of Principal and the Pauper was both pitched and written by Ken Keeler. Keeler was inspired to write the episode by the Tichborne case that captivated Victorian England throughout 1860 and 1870. The case related to a man who claimed to be the missing heir to the Tichborne baronetcy. Ultimately, he failed to convince the courts of his claim and was convicted of perjury and served an extensive prison sentence. The episode's title is a reference to the 1881 book The Prince and the Pauper by Mark Twain, about the story of two young boys who were born on the same day and are identical in appearance, but who have lived two dramatically different lives. Although the episode aired during The Simpsons' 9th season, it was a holdover from season 8, during which Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein were showrunners for the series. The two producers were initially excited about the episode because Principal Skinner was one of their favorite characters, so much so that the pair wrote arguably the most important Seymour Skinner episode, the 19th episode of the 5th season, Sweet Seymour Skinner's Badass Song, which was an in-depth study of the character, detailing Skinner's personality, backstory, and home life. In the episode, Superintendent Chalmers fires Skinner after a disaster at school. Bart, feeling responsible for Skinner's firing, tries to help his old principal get his job back. The episode was the 100th of the series as a whole, and is widely considered one of the strongest and best of the series, which led to Keeler, Oakley, and Weinstein wanting to explore Skinner and his backstory further. Even in retrospect, all three have defended Principal and the Pauper. Keeler in particular is especially proud of his work, given his motivation for writing it in the first place. Keeler's objective with the episode was satire, as he wanted to highlight just how malleable and mob-ruled the citizens of Springfield are. Ultimately, Keeler's only regret is that in the rewriting process, some of his original dialogue was changed by other writers, which made the original point of the episode less obvious. Additionally, Oakley and Weinstein justified the strangeness of the episode with the fact that they thought the show was probably going to end soon, as it had peaked, so they approached it as an experiment that wasn't necessarily going to be canon, hence the end that both resets the status quo of the series, but also allows people to regard it as non-canon.
By authority of the city of Springfield, I hereby confer upon you the name of Seymour Skinner, as well as his past, present, future, and mother.
Okay.
And I further decree that everything will be just like it was before all this happened, and no one will ever mention it again, under penalty of torture.
Regardless of their intentions though, the experiment clearly fell flat, at least as far as most fans are concerned. Many simply see the episode as lazy and desperate, as if the writing staff had simply picked the idea randomly out of thin air. However, that notion seems highly unlikely, given the talent behind the episode, especially in regards to Keeler. Ken Keeler first started in the television industry in 1992, writing for The Late Show with David Letterman, before moving on to write for the series Wings, The Simpsons, Futurama, The Critic, and The PJs. During his time with The Simpsons, Keeler wrote 7 episodes, some of which are considered some of the best of the entire series, including Brother from Another Series, in which Sideshow Bob's brother Cecil tries to destroy Springfield by blowing up the town's dam. The Mysterious Voyage of Homer, when Homer eats spicy hallucinogenic peppers that subsequently cause him to doubt that Marge is his soulmate, and 2 Bad Neighbors, in which former President George Bush and his wife move into the Simpsons neighborhood and clash with Homer and Bart. Keeler also wrote 2 of the Simpsons' most controversial episodes. First, he wrote A Star is Burns, the 18th episode of the 6th season. It first aired in March 1995 and revolves around the Springfield Film Festival, for which they invite film critic Jay Sherman as a judge. The episode serves as a crossover with the animated series The Critic, something which infuriated Groening, so much so that he refused to be credited for the episode. Then there's Principal and the Pauper. As of October 2021, it's the last episode Keeler ever wrote for The Simpsons, which certainly looks bad on paper, as if the episode was so bad that no one associated with the show wanted Keeler to have anything more to do with the series. Rather, the truth is that his work was so good that he was immediately bombarded with opportunities, specifically The Simpsons' sister show, Groening's next project, Futurama. Keeler was instrumental in the creation of the series. He was one of the show's most prolific writers, with 14 episodes to his name, including the original series finale, The Devil's Hands Are Idle Playthings.
Give me back my hands! These things are always touching me in places.
And the series' actual finale, Meanwhile, which is widely considered to be one of the best series finales of all time. He also wrote the direct-to-DVD Futurama movies, Bender's Big Score, and Into the Wild Green Yonder, which was also intended to serve as a potential series finale, had the show not been picked up. Additionally, Keeler wrote some of Futurama's best episodes, including Godfellas, in which Bender gets lost in space and becomes a spiritual leader. Time keeps on slipping, when a game of basketball inadvertently endangers the universe, and The Prisoner of Benda, when Professor Farnsworth's body-swapping experiment produces unexpected results. Given Keeler's credentials, both before and after Principal in the Pauper episode, and the fact that Groening entrusted him to pen 3 of Futurama's series finales, it's absurd to suggest that the episode is the result of Keeler either being out of ideas or just being lazy, if not both. It's clear that he just wanted to add depth to an already well-established secondary character. Admittedly, the execution was far from ideal, largely due to the pre-established personality traits and backstory of Principal Skinner.
I am a virgin.
One of the biggest issues fans had with the episode was that Skinner had been a reoccurring character since the first season, someone that many fans had come to love, or at least love to hate. So, after years of character development that repeatedly reinforced Skinner's uptight personality and storied history, having his backstory suddenly change, with the revelation that he's an imposter, felt like both a betrayal to Simpsons fans and lazy storytelling, especially because previous character development and backstory had been done so well in the past. Over the years, The Simpsons had shown that they could evolve characters over time, gradually hinting at distinct personality traits and past experiences.
I didn't know you played the guitar, Otto Man.
Hey, that's all I did in high school. My old man said I was wasting my time and I'd never amount to anything.
On the DVD commentary track for the episode, Keeler, Oakley, and Weinstein defend the sudden alteration of Skinner's backstory because, despite his previously established history, he was still only a secondary character. But the problem with that explanation is that Principal Skinner was one of the more developed secondary characters at the time. And, ironically, that had a lot to do with Oakley and Weinstein themselves, given that they were largely responsible for giving so much depth to Skinner's character, his life in Springfield, and his backstory. In addition to writing Sweet Seymour Skinner's badass song, Oakley and Weinstein were showrunners for The Simpsons for the 7th and 8th season of the series, during which they oversaw the production of another crucial Principal Skinner episode, Grade School Confidential, the 19th episode of the 8th season, which originally aired in April 1997. The episode established Skinner's long-term relationship with Edna Krabappel. Both Skinner's badass song and Grade School Confidential were crucial in giving Skinner his uptight and unconventional attitudes and mannerisms. Those episodes were so effective at establishing Skinner's personality that when Principal and the Pauper was made, it was hard to believe that Skinner had ever been so radically different to the uptight, straight-edge, law-abiding citizen he now was. Yet, fans were expected to just accept that Principal Skinner was once a totally different person, completely opposite to his previously established personality, even though the show had never even alluded to Principal Skinner having a rebellious attitude and a criminal history. However, although the execution of Principal and the Pauper was jarring, the reality is that people are intricate with multifaceted personalities who have had numerous life experiences, who have said and done things that they're not proud of. The notion that Skinner would be ashamed of the person he used to be, someone who embodied all the things he now loathes about society and human nature, and, thus, kept it secret, fits perfectly with the draconian authority figure he became.
Good Lord! The rod up that man's butt must have a rod up its butt!
Additionally, there's decades apart from the criminal Tamsarian and Principal Skinner. People change, especially those who have served in the military. The introduction of Sergeant Skinner alters Principal Skinner's pre-established military service, another thing that bothered some fans. But these changes don't totally invalidate his service, as he still went to Vietnam and experienced at least some of the events he had previously mentioned that shaped who he is as a person.
The VC are coming! Open fire, men!
Skinner, get him! Get him!
Furthermore, although it's altered some of Skinner's pre-established backstory, it's not uncommon for veterans to misremember their experiences during war. Additionally, numerous veterans have had their personalities dramatically altered through traumatic events that they experienced during their service. Principal Skinner was clearly impacted by Sergeant Skinner's mentoring and his ostensible untimely death, something that could have triggered his dramatic shift in personality, causing him to switch from being a strong-willed, rebellious teen to a submissive, law-abiding mama's boy.
Hey, Hot Pockets, win something for your girlfriend? Oh, yeah.
Ironically, although people accuse Principal and the Pauper of ignoring the continuity of the series, the episode perfectly explains Skinner and his mother's relationship and why they developed codependent dynamics. Until season 9, all fans knew about Skinner was that he was a stern, budget-cutting principal who had vague memories of fighting in Vietnam and that he lived with his mother. The episodes gave fans a deeper look into Skinner and his mother's relationship, something which had previously only been alluded to.
I owe everything I have to my mother's watchful eye and swift hand. Oh, there's Mother now, watching me.
The fact that Skinner isn't Agnes's biological son explains why she treats him so poorly, and why he's willing to tolerate her mistreatment, given that he feels sorry for her, the very reason he stole Sergeant Skinner's identity in the first place, rather than inform her of her son's death.
Hello, I'm...
Seymour? Is that you?
Yes, Mother, it's me.
Furthermore, the episode was the first to really explore Agnes Skinner as a character, with an intricate level of character development that hadn't been seen for her earlier in the series, which solidified her personality as controlling and mean-spirited, something which the audience saw more and more of as the series went on.
You start a car as well as you start a family.
In addition to the betrayal fans felt over Skinner's backstory, they also had a problem with the self-referential Deus Ex Machina ending, where the seemingly unsolvable problem of the real Skinner wanting his old life back is humorously dismissed for the sake of a happy ending. Typically, whenever something dramatically happens in a sitcom that suddenly shifts the dynamics of the show, ostensibly changing the very nature of the series, the sitcom will address the change by simply resetting the dynamics of the show by either explaining away the change with a lazy offhanded comment, or by not addressing the change at all, and resetting the dynamics of the show back to the way they were in the next episode. Understandably, many fans hate this lazy technique. One of the things that makes BoJack Horseman so great is that they avoid using easy outs like having conflict totally resolved by the end of an episode for characters to never speak of it again. So, in the universe of BoJack, actions have consequences, unlike most other cartoons. The Simpsons had previously made fun of this hackney technique in the earlier episode Homer Loves Flanders, the 16th episode of the 5th season. In the episode, Flanders and Homer become good friends, something that concerns Bart, as it threatens the status quo.
It seems like every week something odd happens to The Simpsons. My advice is to ride it out, make an occasional smart aleck quip, and by next week we'll be back to where we started from, ready for another wacky adventure.
Ay, caramba!
That's the spirit.
I don't get it, Lise. You said everything would be back to normal, but Homer and Flanders are still friends.
Yeah, maybe this means the end of our wacky adventures.
Guess what, everyone? My great-uncle Boris died and left us his old country house!
Hi, diddly-ho, neighbor.
Get lost, Flanders. Okily dokily.
Basically, the ending of Principal and the Pauper episode also makes fun of this kind of ending. Certainly, The Simpsons did the joke better in Homer Loves Flanders, and it's understandable the fans found it hackneyed to rehash an old joke like that. But, in the context of the episode, it works perfectly, arguably even better than it does in Homer Loves Flanders. In addition to ridiculing lazy sitcom writing, the ending of Principal and the Pauper has poignancy, something that Homer Loves Flanders lacks. Keeler specifically chose to end the episode the way he did in order to highlight how poorly veterans have been and continue to be treated, despite their sacrifices. While the joke may not land as well as it did in Homer Loves Flanders, the satire certainly does, especially when Homer embodies society's indifference to the suffering veterans have endured, due directly to their sacrifice, when he sarcastically shows his appreciation.
But I'm a hero!
And we salute you for it. Now don't come back!
Unfortunately, because Principal and the Pauper has been so demonized over the years, a number of objectively great things about the episode get overlooked. One such aspect is the performance of Martin Sheen, who guest starred as the real Seymour Skinner. Sheen was chosen to voice the character because the show producers admired his performance in 1979's Apocalypse Now, and felt that his voice would be perfect for a Vietnam veteran. The idea behind the character was that he was just kind of boring. It would have been easy to make him a horrible, dislikable guy, but Keeler didn't want to do that, so he made him just not quite right, and a little bit off. Sheen plays the character perfectly. Unfortunately, because of the controversy of the episode, his performance is usually overlooked, something that was especially disappointing for Sheen himself, given that his career at the time was on a downslide. He was never out of work. However, the one-time highly sought-after A-lister actor, who'd previously been in high demand, had starred in a string of average-at-best movies and made a number of guest appearances in TV shows, most of which were beneath his talent. Fortunately, 2 years after his appearance on The Simpsons, Sheen would return to his earliest success with his lead role in The West Wing, portraying President Josiah Bartlet between 1999 and 2006. Still, it's disappointing that, despite his solid performance in Principal and the Pauper, his contribution to the Simpsons universe is overshadowed by the backlash to the episode, especially since it was a rare occasion where Sheen got the chance to demonstrate his, at the time, solid but rarely seen comedic skills.
And since '77, I've been making sneakers at gunpoint in a sweatshop in Wuhan.
That's not a funny story.
Well, I guess you had to be there.
Ultimately, Principal and the Pauper was an ambitious experiment in character development that fell flat due to its abrupt, seemingly unearned disruption of the status quo. Despite its flaws, though, the classic Skinner moments and various classic Simpsons jokes alone make the episode undeserving of the title of When the Show Died. Additionally, the episode brilliantly dissects Skinner and his mother's relationship by giving Agnes more character-defining depth, the likes of which hadn't been seen in the series before, and would be used to inform her later character development, with her distinct bossy mean-spiritedness. Principal and the Pauper was definitely far from perfect, and deservedly stands out in the window of the Simpsons Golden Era, but not necessarily for only bad reasons. It was yet another example of when the show is willing to take risks and subvert expectations, while giving depth to a beloved secondary character. Given the timing of the episode and the talent behind it, the project would have looked like a guaranteed success, on paper. Unfortunately, after dismissing Shearer's concerns about the direction of the episode and how fans would react, in addition to the rewrites to Keeler's original script, the execution of this ambitious experiment was one of the rare missteps during the Simpsons Golden Era. Still, there's enough positives about this project to warrant a rewatch and re-evaluation by Simpsons fans, as there's more things to appreciate in this episode than there is to hate.
Principal Skinner?
Up yours, children. No, it's the children who are wrong.